We're now ready to continue with a deeper dive into universal design for learning with the guidelines that are put together by CAST. So universal design for learning is divided into three areas: multiple means of engagement, multiple means of representation, and multiple means of action and expression. So here I have a screenshot of the UDL guidelines. So with multiple means of engagement, that is the why of learning. So what gets students to the course? Why are they taking the course? Why are they enrolling in the program? And what is going to keep them motivated and learning? So it's all about recruiting student interest, sustaining their effort, and helping them self-regulate as they work through their learning so that they can become purposeful and motivated. Multiple means of representation is the what of learning. So that is the stuff, the materials that you're providing for your students so that they can learn. So with multiple means of representation, you're looking at perception. So how are students interacting with the course content? Are they just visually perceiving the content, or are there multiple ways to visually see content, to listen to audio, to watch a video? If you have a course that has a lot of vocabulary and symbols, are there ways to clarify the syntax and the structure as you describe the language and the symbols of the learning? And how are students comprehending? Are there ways to highlight patterns and critical features within the course so that students can be resourceful and knowledgeable in their learning? And finally, action and expression is how students demonstrate that they have learned or met the learning objectives that you've put out for them. So are there multiple ways for them to physically interact with the learning? So if they're taking a quiz, are there multiple ways for them to engage with a quiz? Are there multiple ways for them to express themselves with video, with audio, with graphic representation? And finally, with executive function, are there ways to guide students with appropriate goal setting and support planning and strategy development so that students can be strategic and goal-directed in their learning? On the actual CAST website, you can drill down for each of these UDL guideline standards and see additional examples from different fields of study of how these standards can be applied in the course. So as we look at UDL guidelines, there are some common features that come out. All learners know and understand the goals, so they are aware of the learning outcomes, the learning goals of the course, and they understand them. There's intentional, flexible options for students to learn. So there's choice and flexibility in how they interact and perceive the learning. All students have access to resources from the start of the lesson. So that means that if a student does need a certain accommodation, that accommodation is built in proactively so that the student doesn't have to wait. If there's a student that needs closed captioning, or if the student needs alternative text on images, all of that is already built into the learning environment. Students build and internalize their own learning so that they can be self-directed. And finally, students can track their progress with timely formative assessment so they can understand where they need to engage deeper in their learning and where they have met the learning outcomes. When we think about our classrooms are really diverse. Classrooms are diverse in the socioeconomic status of students, the linguistic background of students, whether students are first-generation learners or coming from families with extensive higher education backgrounds. There is diversity in age, in job level. Some students are coming straight out of high school, and other students are coming after having extensive work experiences in various industries. And all of that diversity brings richness to our classrooms, but also different learning needs. And with that, universal design for learning can help students succeed. in helping students succeed, we want to make sure that we're removing any barriers. So we're removing any physical barriers in terms of how they physically move through the learning space, whether that's a digital learning space and they're using a mouse to move through the space, or it's an in-person classroom and they can physically move through it in an easy and barrier-free way. We're removing any sensory barriers that may affect student learning, whether that be noise or lighting or other distractions that may affect student learning. We're removing any cognitive or emotional barriers for the student. Technological barriers, students have access to the technology that they need and they know how to use it. And technological barriers go hand in hand with financial barriers, where obtaining technology may be a challenge financially. We're removing any spatial barriers in how students approach their learning, and temporal barriers. So if a student needs to learn at night, or if a student needs to learn on the weekend, they have the ability to do that. So as a faculty member, you can make it easier for students to learn. You can make it easy for students to find the content so that they're focusing on learning the content, not how to get to the content. You can make it easy for them to ask for help. And both of those can be achieved by using the STCC template in your Blackboard course that creates consistency across courses and across programs for your students. And you can build in flexibility and choice in how they engage with your content in the multiple means of representation, multiple means of action and expression. So now that you have learned a little bit about Universal Design for Learning, go back to the Google form and engage with the activity. So the first activity relates to counting the clicks and the navigation of your course. And the second activity is about adding choice. I look forward to reading your responses.